So the project's called Poo Patrol, which has obviously attracted quite a lot of hilarity. And it's a very, very small experimental project between myself and two veterinary scientists based at Bristol, so Dr. Eric Morgan and Dr. Katie Turner. And it's looking at how we can bring different disciplines together to address challenging social problems. So it's funded by a new research institute in the university called the Brigstow Institute, which is really about bringing those experimental projects together in whatever field, with a kind of overall agenda about well-being in the community, about living well with each other. So our project is really looking at dog fouling and how that impinges upon people's lives. I think we've got different kind of agendas, which is really interesting. So from a veterinary perspective, there's an issue around worming of dogs and health in dogs, but also around communication of worm infections to humans. From my perspective, my work is predominantly with children and families. So it's much more about the health risks for children. So children who live in particularly impoverished areas are much more likely to be adversely affected by the Toxocara worm, which is the eggs that can be laid in non-worm dogs. I started off actually by using Facebook. So there's a number of BS5 groups. I'd been doing some work in BS5 area with some grassroots organisations, and I was observing the interactions on some of these Facebook groups. There is a Facebook group around dog fouling. There is one around fly tipping, for example. There's one that's just sort of a community-based group trying to bring people together. And it seemed that it was a really important issue in that kind of social media space. So I started recruiting through the Facebook pages and was really impressed at the response that I was getting. So we had an initial meeting in Malcolm X in St Paul's, which brought together some people from Easton who were just really passionate about the issue. We also had a representative of Friends of Troopers Hill who came along, and that was really interesting because they've tried loads and loads of things. They have a kind of ongoing issue with dog walkers in the park area. They're not trying to exclude dog walkers by any means. They're actively encouraging, responsible dog walking and, reducing dog fouling. So the lady who came along from there was able to inform the group from Easton in terms of some of the strategies that people have tried, because it's one of those things that people have tried lots of things and we don't have the answers. There is no evidence base to say what works in terms of reducing dog fouling. So we needed to work with people in terms of what they felt was going to be acceptable in their communities, what they felt they'd tried and hadn't worked, or tried and had worked but they needed just a little bit more momentum behind it. I guess problems in terms of people's concern that they've tried lots of things. So the Troopers Hill group, they've tried spraying dog poos in the park to try and highlight them. They've done things like putting up loads and loads of posters in the park. They've strung up poo bags at the entrances to the park in the hopes that might actually encourage people. If you've got a free poo bag, you haven't got an excuse that you can't pick it up. But what they've found is that those things are vandalised overnight.